right, welcome to Jack Dodson's Racing Insider News this week, presented by Papa John's. Our pizza will be here any minute, hopefully. I got to thank the Papa John's, the local Papa John's, for taking care of us. Got to thank our marketing partners. We got Blackwater Station, NC 811, Virginia 811, Great American Company, GAC, Bondurant Brothers Distillery. Jack, when are you going down to get us a little bit of a drink?
To get down there.
Man, that's terrible. Pepsi, MPM Marketing, Tanya McAllister. Did I say that right?
Yeah, finally.
Finally, yeah. If you need any help with your online presence and other things for a young racer to teach you, she's the person. Factory Canopies, they got us some nice chairs that we're letting Vaughan and Bill set in. Black Acid Apparel, if you need 1 shirt, 10 shirts. Safety Clean, Performance Plus, Motor Oil, and last but not least, Langley Speedway for Bill and Chuck and Vaughan for letting us do the show here. And with that.
All right, let's do the news real quick with the Smith Wraps and Graphics Roundup for the weekend. Had one race down at Carruth County, the Race of Champions. The veteran, Stacy Per Year, got the win down there. And that was kind of hard to believe, he's still kicking and doing well with the racing, and it's unbelievable. Connor Hall finished second. Connor Jones finished third, and Butterbean finished fourth.
There's a little rough up between them two, huh?
There's a little unhappiness with the two of them.
First time that's ever happened.
You race as long as they have. It's going to happen eventually.
But, think about Connor Hall, how great he's been doing in some of these big races here at the end of the year. He has really done a great job. He hasn't got a win, but, he's
ran well.
Yeah, he ran really well. We also want to send out our thoughts and prayers to Craig Estep. I understand he was in the hospital going through some surgery or whatever. Want to send her our thoughts and prayers. Aiden Zedrich, I talked with his mom day before yesterday. He's getting better every day. He's finally out and moving around a little bit, so that's good. And send our condolences out to the Wood Brothers Racing. Nancy Wood, Lynn's wife, passed away from cancer Sunday, I think it was. So we want to send out our thoughts and prayers to him. And Scott, I know you got one.
And we want to say that Dave Millard will be coming home tomorrow. So it'll be nice for him to be home. I'm sure he'll feel more comfortable and the family more comfortable than staying somewhere else,
Yeah, that's a huge step in that recovery, and to be in a familiar setting will definitely speed that process up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
All right, in some racing news, Rajay Carruth was awarded the Wendell Scott Trailblazer Award today.
Yeah.
We've known Rajay since he didn't even know what a race car was, hardly. So, unbelievable.
I don't know if y'all, we've said this story a few times. We met Rajay at Richmond International.
Yep.
Waiting in a line to go out, and this kid knew who Derek Cope was. He was probably 14 or 15 years old then. He had never raced anything. He had done a little bit of iRacing stuff, and he's just a huge fan. And I was like, what kid this age knows who Derek Cope is? Kids my age might know who Derek Cope is, but I'm like, so we got to talking to him, and then his dad contacted us. He's like, how do we get involved? I'm like, man, get in the diversity program. And he hadn't even been in a car yet. I hooked him up with Graham when they were running the Legends, and I was like, so he could get a few laps before he went to the combine, and here he is doing really well. He's got a 12 race or 6 race Xfinity ride next year.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's great to see.
He's going to run ARCA and some late models too.
He's one to look at. And
he's a great role model too, and he studies the sport.
Well, he comes from just a very unique track of getting to where he is now. It's the most unconventional path
for sure
we've had so far, but he might be the first of a lot coming up through that path now, where they first fall in love now through iRacing and then kind of fall into it a different way and get the notoriety there. I know when I was at Richmond, I didn't work with him directly, but one of my coworkers, Ray Smith, who was heading up the Richmond Raceway Esports did a lot with him.
Mhm.
So it's really cool to kind of see someone come up through that passage.
Yeah.
Just very different.
Kind of like a William Byron. In
A little bit, but this
yeah.
is more of a
Yeah.
like legit started in iRacing and then got
Oh
into
yeah,
something real.
it had. And his family has no. I mean, they're from the islands.
That's
I
what's
mean,
so interesting about
you
it.
know,
Is this whole different path has opened up.
Yeah, and it brings a whole different fan base with him.
It does.
And it's a super nice family. I mean, they're super smart and good people. So it's really pretty cool. I mean, since we've met him that time, we've always kept up with him, and he's going to make his first Xfinity start at Richmond.
Yep.
So it'll be pretty cool. We'll definitely be there for that.
All right. Also, College Racing's been making a whole lot of news here the last week or so. Landon Castle is going to be driving the number 10 College Racing Xfinity car this coming year. I talked to Landon. He's all excited. We're going to have him on the show in a couple weeks, too.
That's kind of a surprise, to be honest.
It is, but, well, we'll talk about that later. And College also in their 16 Cup car has got a lineup of Daniel Hemrick, Noah Gregson, and AJ Allmendinger are going to run the races for them. That's really so. That's both those cars are chartered cars, and
Yes.
so they'll be in the races. And Hemrick and Gregson will have some good equipment behind them this year.
What a combination after what they've been through with each other last year. I mean, it's like they just threw them all together and like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if they all raced together?
Yeah, don't have to worry about. But hey, we'll see what happens there. Todd Bodine, after being out of racing for a couple of years, he's coming back. Going to run 6 races for Halmar Racing. That's Stuart Friesen's group, and I'm sure that's
going to
make
be 800 start. I think it's going to be.
That's the goal, is for him to get the 800 start.
Yeah.
And I remember that started. I can't remember how long ago it was, but basically, the CEO of Camping World, what was it?
Marcus Lemonis.
Yeah, I don't know. It was like out of nowhere. He just messaged Todd Bodine on Twitter and is like, "Hey, did you notice that you were only this many starts away from 800? Want me to sponsor you so you can do it?"
Oh, really? I didn't know
So
that's how it came.
that was kind of the beginning of that deal. So I mean, it's cool because I think he's going to be sponsored by Camping World.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he's going to be in real equipment. So we'll see what Team Onion can do.
Yeah.
And Chevrolet made an announcement. They're going to be the primary. No, I don't want to say sponsor, but primary. Manufacturer. That's it. You got the word. Manufacturer of Rev Racing, and that's I wasn't expecting that one either because I didn't.
And I came through Raja.
So.
Oh, really?
Yep, that was where the partnership started. Was through him.
I'm surprised Toyota, because they were doing so much of that. I'm surprised they didn't do that a long time ago. I mean, it's a great. The diversity programs is a great outlet for any of those manufacturers. So I'm surprised it's really taken this long to put something like that together.
All right, and that's all I got for the news. And Chuck Gardner, happy holidays to you. I hope you have a good one. I haven't had a chance to talk to you lately. Phoenix Kimball's mom says, "Did I vote for Phoenix for Driver of the Year at Goodyear?"
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
She wins 2 races, and now she's Driver of the Year. That's pretty cool, though, if you go down and get 2 races. But, yes, I did vote for her, so I have to say I did. All right, joining us is Vaughan Crittenden, and the boss man, Bill Mullis, is here with us. And I tell you what, 2021 was a good year, so give us a roundup about how things went in 2021.
Well, we were able to start when we wanted and end when we wanted. So just in that alone, it was a good year, especially over 2020. Finally, a full season again where we didn't have any restrictions. The only race the whole year was the first day of destruction, and then by the time opening night rolled around, we were wide open and good to go. So it was exciting to finally have all that stuff in the past, ditch the face mask and everything else that was around it, and just go racing. And while a lot of tracks have had difficulty with car count, we had a lot of divisions that were very healthy and went up in car count this year. We had great parity in the late model racing. You really never knew who was going to win a late model race. There was a good 6 or 7 every night that were going to have a chance of getting to victory lane. And then, so many other divisions, just great competition throughout them. The battle between, Legends with Spencer and Jacob Derrick, was great to watch throughout the season. Truck races were fantastic this year. Watching what Chris Roberts did in Grand Stocks was great. Dale Nichols proven consistency, could really win championships. He's now done it in Grand Stocks. He's done it in Super Streets, and he's become very good at points racing. You just look through the whole season, the racing, it was fantastic. The Cars Tour race was phenomenal, second on back. And then the Hampton Heat was one of the best we've ever had, and I think from the promotional standpoint was the best we'd ever done.
You come into a rough situation in 2020 when you came in here,
right,
and had to deal with the COVID stuff and everything that went on. And I know, it had to affect all you guys to the point where you just didn't know what was the next corner was going to be. But now that you had a good year this past year, you got your feet on the ground. How you feel about things about making your footprint in the sand here?
I mean, we're feeling very well about it right now. We're working on a lot of different projects around the track. Some small, some absolutely massive. So we're really looking towards the future and and cementing Langley as one of the premier short tracks in the country. So we got 1 year in the belt. I've made countless mistakes last year. I did as much learning as I could. So, I'm taking all those lessons learned and putting them into next year and trying to make this the biggest it's ever been.
What's been the toughest thing?
There's been a lot of different ways you could look at how to answer that question. One is just being here, 6 days a week and getting through the grind of the season and being as fresh mentally, at the beginning of the season as you at the end of the season when it comes to trying to keep everything up and moving. The other side of it is really just trying to always continually grow. Don't get stagnant. Don't be satisfied with what's in front of you. Stay hungry and really try to get everything you can out of it. If you see something happening in April, don't wait till next April to fix it. Go ahead and start working on a solution for it now and going that route. All right, we got some pizza.
Yeah. He wasn't kidding. I didn't think he really had any connections where he could make pizza.
Well, he didn't. I did.
Oh, wow. I should have known. Okay.
Now, Bill, you got to be excited about how things are going here at Langley. You've got a lot of different things. You got the drifting came in here, and all the days of destruction and everything. You've got to be excited about, and Vaughan's doing a great job getting all this together.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I think sometimes I'm, on Saturday night, Vaughan, I think, gets more entrenched in what we're doing all the time, and I might come out here and I'm thinking more of some of the big things that Vaughan and I are thinking together, So sometimes I think I come out here and my head's on a different tier, which is not good or bad, you know what I'm saying? But I'm not as attached to the day-to-day operation as Langley, and I don't need to be, which is fantastic. I tell people, I don't even know why I'm on your radio show. I don't work here. You know what I mean? I'll hang around with Vaughan. I figured I'd come up and hang around you guys, though, because, until Scott, the race in October is over, he's been hanging around here the whole time, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But it's been great. COVID year was hard on me and Vaughan both. I was angry about COVID and the situation in the business, and we got stressed out. I mean, we went racing at Dixieland, and we were racing down there, and I couldn't open, and then we opened and Dixieland closed. So it was really strange for me, and then it's so hard for Vaughan and I just to sit here. His first year was kind of disappointing. How you get somebody and they're young and aggressive, like Charlie Brown, and Lucy's going to get him to kick the football, and then he comes running up and whoosh. Here's your racetrack that you can't open. So you just sit here for a while and think about it. So, it was a hard year for everybody, not this business, but everybody, the whole country. And, we got through it. And survival is success. I say that all the time about businesses. Sometimes a business doesn't necessarily have to make any money, but it has to have an exchange of cash. Okay. It has to have cash flow. So it's got money coming in and out, and it may not make any at the end of the year, but it survives that year. Maybe it'll do better next year. So survival is success a lot of times. If you can't survive, you'll never succeed. You've got to be able to maintain at some survival rate. And COVID tested that for us hard. And we survived it just fine. We did some things. It took a little doing on my part, but Langley's different now. This feeling out here is totally different than it used to be when this was a lease. And now, owning the property and the relationship we've got with the city, the very close relationship we got with the city and NASCAR is such a comfort zone anymore compared to historical. So I've never felt the same about this place since I walked back in here in 2017. It's been different. It's been a different tone, and y'all have seen us move forward doing some improvements around here.
Right.
So, you're a little leery. You have big plans, but if you're renting a house, you don't put a swimming pool in the yard usually.
Right.
An in-ground pool in a house you're renting. So that kind of held us, and then once we had that steam from the purchase, and then we rolled into COVID, Chuck and I said, okay, where's our future? And of course, Vaughan and I have been racing together for years and years. And I told somebody that the other night. I'm like, I don't know. Vaughan was like 12 when I started helping him kart racing. And I guess you were 12 years old. He was really young. So the racing deal started with Vaughan and I years ago. And a little group, really a group of people we're all still involved with. Curtis and me and Vaughan. I don't think Curtis ever raced but one race in his life that I didn't spot for him. So we'd always race together all the time. Curtis' dad helped me. Cliff helped all of us. He was like the leader of the pack, you know what I'm saying? Then he brought all of us up in racing. So it's been really cool this year to come out of COVID, feel normalcy here, and get back into some kind of racing comfort level, so to speak. So for me, it's just been, I just kind of ride things out. I've learned to be a little calmer these days. Maybe it's because I'm old and wore out, but I'm trying not to overreact to anything. And I'm trying to stay focused on big pictures, big things, because that's where I need to put my effort is on some of the big ideas we've got for Langley. There's some things, and I don't want to talk about them now because I always tell people, don't tell people you're going to do something if you're not going to do it or you can't do it, because you'll set everybody up for disappointment, including yourself. But I'm hopeful that some of the big things that Vaughan and I really agree on, that we both think, hey, this is definitely the future of this place. Some of the things like Vaughan said we're working on will rock Langley Speedway. It'll be a whole different. It'll be a racetrack, but it's going to be set for the future. So that's what I'm doing right now, is really kind of sitting around thinking more big picture for the track, long term, and more of a, kind of a different approach in the background.
One of the things I've set up here on race nights, and then I've gone down and I've kind of walked around a little bit sometimes, but I've set up here on race nights and I've watched you go around and talk to people, make an effort to speak to people from time to time. I think you've even gone around and done a little bit of it more than usual too.
Yeah.
But it's really good to see that, you have that interest and at least you're talking to the fans and hearing what they've got to say.
Oh yeah, I know the people here, and that's a comfort level. And honestly, on Saturday night in the summertime, I'd rather sit in the stands and be up here in the box, because you see and feel the race experience, and that's what short track racing is. It's what people feel when they come here. I want to feel that same thing. I want to see what they see and see what they feel, and it's kind of cool to get around, and talk to everybody. You get a pulse of the people, who comes here and why, and I think it's just a comfortable feeling, and I think the accessibility to me and Vaughan, people know they can talk to us. They're like, oh, you can't really talk to him. He'll just say hi and keep going. But, I'll stop and talk to anybody. It doesn't make any difference to me. And, our best kept secret's a kart club. And, we're over here having a kart club board meeting tonight. That started at 6:30. I've been president of Kart Club for a pretty good while, but between the dynamics, I mean, there's so many younger kids here, and sometimes we got Kart Club kids here on Saturday night watching racing because they want to get in a bando. They're our next bando kids. They're coming. Now, we have produced so many racers like Dale Nichols. Man, one of our Kart Club racers, what a driver. You know, I mean, him and Gordon Weeks Jr., and, you know, they were both in the Kart Club. They came every Sunday. The family's been racing for years. But to see both of them in cars and how good they are and you know, the family, that's kind of really what it's all about here at Langley is so much history and multiple generations of people that have been in racing here. It makes this place really cool.
But you go and compare Langley with other racetracks. I mean, and I'm not putting down any other racetrack, but I'm thinking about Langley in particular. The history, everything that's involved here at Langley Speedway has a whole lot of respect and everything from everybody down the line, from NASCAR and everywhere. Langley's a good place to go. They have great people there. So that's got to be really big for you to be able to hear people say that about Langley Speedway.
It is. I mean, I always tell people Langley is more popular outside of Hampton than it is here. It's huge outside of Hampton. Vaughan knows that. This track here has a huge reputation across the country, bigger than we know.
Yeah.
You know, we live in, so it's our house. You know, like, oh, people know about our house. You better believe they know about our house. And you know, but the history was there before I came along. So I feel like it's something that belongs to the track. It's not anything that I did. I feel good about it. I inherited it, but I do think that I'm not bragging, but I guess we've done a good job keeping her alive. You know, when I signed that lease, it was the end of Dale Lemon's first 5 years and the next 5-year block. And I knew I was committed for 6 years. And I thought, boy, what are you going to do? And then I chipped off one more year after that. And then 2017 came, or the end of 2016 or 2017 came, but it was, or 2016 came. That was the year we were closed. But prior to that, I would sit in the stands on Saturday night, and everything appeared great here, except me. I had a stomach ache. I'd be up there like, oh, man, look at this. All these great fans here, and looking at all these guys beat CE and Greg Edwards down there, you know, shoving each other around. I mean, like the hottest race in the country. And I'm like, oh, how are you going to fix it? You know what I mean? And I'm sitting there the whole time, like subconsciously, it was like running in the background of my head, like it's a ticking time bomb, Bill Mullis. How are you going to fix it? I mean, that's what I used to tell myself. That place is a least ticking time bomb. How are you going to fix it? And Vaughan knows it. I used to tell Vaughan that, I mean, early on, you know, during the lease, like, man, what in the world? How are you going to fix that place? So it was a miracle. Really, the year that it closed was a miracle for the track, because I think that'll change its future.
Did you have, during the closing of that year that you were closed, did you have the fear? And I did have the fear a little bit, and I mentioned it several times. Is the track going to come back strong? I think you knew it would because of you have better connections to it than I do, but I was kind of concerned about it.
I was too. I was afraid too many people went fishing, you know, and then I really feared it when I signed the banknote. Then I'm like really choked up, like, oh my gosh, I wonder if nobody comes back racing. But it's Langley. They're going to come back. You know, it's not a racetrack that was here for 5 years or a racetrack that's had intermittent fair administration. It's been strong for a long time. And all those people aren't going away. It's too much tradition here, and there's too much local tradition built into this place that it would die. And I'll tell y'all, I had some butterflies about it until opening night, and it was open. I knew it. I'm like, she's back. They ain't forgot her. We're in good shape, and it's been like that since.
Yeah.
COVID's been the rough storm, but really this place has been very strong since we reopened in 2017.
I agree with you.
I don't think I've seen anything since the opening night that
Phenomenal.
I mean, that was crazy.
So can y'all imagine how I felt? I felt
relieved, yeah.
Maybe I did the right thing. I don't know.
You felt relieved, but I was stressed out trying to find a bus to shuttle people.
I
that
know,
night.
right?
I'm stressed out. Vaughn's trying to get people in here in a bus. I'm like,
I'm sitting here trying to find buses to shuttle people. The website's crashing, so I'm trying to get with GoDaddy to increase the bandwidth on the website.
and I was exhausted. I mean, y'all
Oh,
got to think
yeah.
of what we need to do a show. I mean, maybe I shouldn't. But what went on behind the scenes of the year?
Well, I was
And-
going to ask that, like, was that when into the lease, and maybe you can't answer this, or maybe you can. When the end of the lease was coming, was that your game plan?
The end of the lease didn't come. John Click broke it. That's the difference.
Okay.
And there's detail here, and I don't care about telling public, but I mean, the trailer park next door is making pretty good money. I mean, anybody can do the math. Google that place and count the units and call them up and find out how much lot rent is. And if you knew what the lease was next door and what the lease was here, you'd shake your head and say something don't make sense. Who did this math? But over the years, particularly after Henry passed away, anytime somebody mentioned money out here, real estate people decided, who are great people, by the way, and so are the attorneys. They wanted more money. It was really the Click's decision. They always looked at the racetrack and said, well, let's get it over there. Well, what had happened is the lease situations, the leases that had been written for the racetrack had increasing percentages of rent every year, to where the racetrack lease was so impossibly high that was no way you can make this place work on paper. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
If you couldn't take this and turn it into Bowman Gray, you were fried. And I mean, that's what happened, and I kept pressuring it, telling John, you got to do something, and so I didn't do anything, and it wasn't the end of a 5-year block. It was actually the beginning of a 5-year block, and we chipped off one of them. We took that, when I took the Dale Lemons last year, Dale Lemons lease, and the next 5-year block. After that, there was only 10 years left. We took one more year after that. So at the end of 2015, it would have been, right, Vaughan? 2016, we're closed. At the end of 2015, starting 2016, this Speedway was on a 9-year death certificate. Something was going to happen no matter what. I was just trying to expedite the process and get at the end of the road talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't work. And then John decided to break the lease, and they sued me and him both. And whoa. But the judge in Hampton released me and said, you're not responsible. You're a second-tier leaser. But he also gave me 15 days to get my stuff off the property. So that year, court was December 21st. So I spent the holidays finding a 10,000 square foot building and moving everything in Langley Speedway in 14 days. So that's how I spent the entire month of January. And then the story gets pretty complex after that. But they were after John Click for the broken lease, and I don't blame them. Okay, they had a 40-year deal, and so they wouldn't lease me the racetrack because there would be no validity to a lawsuit. So I was sitting there saying, lease me Langley while you guys are fighting it out. And they're like, So every day, Vaughan knows this, Chuck Hall knows it very well, Billy Hobbs knows it. I probably call Billy Hobbs or Chuck Hall every day of the year. And one day I was encouraged, like, I'm going to work this out. I'm going to make it work. The next day I was mad. And the third day I'd quit and didn't care. And I went through 3-day cycles seriously, Vaughan knows. This is a true story. I went through 3-day cycles. I get mad about it. But one thing I never did take my eye off that poker table. I never left the card table, not once in a year, not one day for 1 hour or 1 minute when it came to the right players. I never left the table. Other people came to the table and ran their mouth and forgot, and they went to the bathroom and decided to go get lunch. And they went over here and did this and they came back, okay? I never left the table. And that's a fact. Now, Chuck Hall will tell you that, Billy Hobbs will too. They know what it did. But I never left the table. And I really knew more than anybody else knew because I was figuring it out along the way. But 2 or 3 major things happened. And it turned it. And that year, that fall, when we had the Martinsville race, nobody knew the future of Langley. When I went to Martinsville, I pretty much had the key to Langley Speedway in my pocket. And I had gone so far as made an offer on the property the weekend prior to that, had a counter that week. I had countered that Friday and went to Martinsville, and we were that far apart. And I knew it when I went to Martinsville. I knew it. And I went right straight to Martinsville, and I talked to some of the players, and I asked them, what's going on at Langley? They told me all about what was going on at Langley, and I just sat there and I thought, if you only knew. Because I was sitting there, I pretty much figured I had the key in my pocket. You know, I mean, we were that close. And Miss Flippo, I mean, that owns this property was fantastic. And you know, she came out here for opening night.
Yeah.
And was the nicest lady I've ever met in my life. So I, honestly, at the end of it, I'll be honest with y'all, I really think it was in God's hands. I really believe it, that God delivered Langley to how he wanted it to be, because it was so many different moving parts. Not one person can make claim that they made it happen, even me. You know what I'm saying? It was too many people involved outside of me that had a decision that didn't have to do any of that. So I kind of say, you know, something kept telling me to mess with it and see what happened. And I'm very tenacious, and I kept messing with it. Plus, I had a whole warehouse full of stuff to run this place. I had all the furniture. I had all the scoring stuff. I had all the records, the trucks, the buses,
Everything.
I had
was in
everything.
there. Everything.
I had a 10,000 square foot warehouse I rented for a year to put Langley inside of.
So you had everything taken, and that had to be good when it finally came out and everything was cut and dried. You got the racetrack and you knew it. And that had to be great to be able to say, okay.
Yeah,
That's a
then the
relief.
work starts.
That's a relief.
Yeah, well then when we got the track, when I went down to Daytona, we announced it at the city, and I went to Daytona the next day.
You went to Daytona. I went to arena racing that night.
Yeah.
It was the return to the Hampton Coliseum.
Yeah. And I went to Daytona, but when I came home, we had like 16 days, wasn't it, to opening day here?
Yeah,
It was.
And the context of Langley was still over there in the warehouse. You talk about some work.
Yeah.
But one thing cool I did when I moved into that warehouse, it had an office. So I set my Langley office up in that office, and I kind of had a place to work. I'd go there and sit by myself and study stuff and try to figure out stuff and call people up and fuss and jump up and down and spin circles and all kinds of stuff, you know. But it took a lot of movement to line all these stars up to get this to happen. A lot.
And now to come to think about it, you got a guy like Vaughan here, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up Vaughan's butt here or anything like that.
He's going to ask you for something later. Vaughn.
No,
Oh, I know he will.
No, I'm not going to ask for that. But I mean, to have somebody that he had, I mean, think about this limited. What is it? Gosh, I can't think of it right off the top of it. Where you put
The
the
lemonade.
lights down here. And,
Yeah, Larry's back
Yeah,
there.
yeah. I mean, everybody. I mean, I've heard people talk about that. The insight he's brought in here and brought some of this stuff in is really. That's good for you too, and I know that's a lot of hard work he's had to deal with.
Well, Vaughn's a marketer, and that's what he does. And something that I know about people, I've got a lot of people work for me. I mean, I really do have a lot of people. I don't realize it sometimes. Oh my gosh, that guy works for me. And learned this from Tiffany. And she says it a lot about young people like Vaughan. She says, when you hire a racehorse, let them run. Don't get in their way too much. Let them run. And you'll find out what kind of thoroughbreds you got. Just let them go. Don't mess with them a lot. They don't need to be held back. They don't need, listen to them and support them. Sometimes I can't do it all. You know what I mean? But when you hire a thoroughbred, you got to let thoroughbreds go. You don't hire them. If you hire a plow horse, that's the one you hook up to your rig and you control. When you hire a racing horse, you don't mess with them. You let
Okay,
them go.
so we're saying Vaughn's a racehorse and Chuck's the plow
Vaughn's a
horse.
thoroughbred. No. Chuck is
He's
in
the
trouble.
stud.
Chuck, no, you heard Chuck.
Don't
If
put that image in anyone's head.
If Chuck doesn't commit a date for the radio show, no Christmas for Chuck, no trip to Pulaski. It's all canceled. There's supposed to be a date for Chuck to be on this radio show. Like by when is it? Like the end of this week or just a few days?
Yeah,
That's what I'm talking
because
about.
we're only going to do one more show this year. That's next week.
Ah,
So we're gonna have to
Twist his arm.
No, I mean, we got to get him on at least in January, or something.
Oh, yeah, we'll get him set
He
up.
doesn't make public appearances often.
Well,
But bottom line at Langley is we're here. We've got all that behind us, and it's settled. The dust from all that settled, and I feel I'm pretty comfortable around here.
and the expansion is beginning. I mean,
Uh-huh.
you see the expansion beginning.
And I've got Chuck here. I got Vaughan here. I've got a good bookkeeper here that works with my bookkeeper that does everything. She runs my whole world, and it's a good situation, And it's just like building a good team on a boat or anywhere else. I'm really good, Jack, at hiring people smarter than I am. That's a good talent to have in
Okay.
life. You know what I mean?
Okay,
When you
I
hire
agree.
people smarter than you are,
I-
it makes my life a whole lot easier for people
Okay, now
like
I'm
me.
not
You know
sure
what I'm
That's
saying?
what Jack does. He surrounds
That's what I'm
himself with
talking about.
smarter people.
Is that so?
But every now and then I slip up.
We got a couple.
One area that I'm really, really proud of that, you asked me, I'm proud on opening night when we came back. I knew then I made the right decision. I'm like, they didn't forget her. She's alive and well. I knew it right that one night. I didn't even worry about
Oh,
it
for
after
sure.
that. I'm like, she's alive and well. I'm going to be fine. The one thing that I'm really proud of is TV production. Vaughan has elevated that to such a fantastic professional level that I go home and watch it. I mean, I'll go home and if we get rained out, I'll go home and pick out a different night and was pulling it up and watching it, and I watched Hampton Heat. We ended up raining out the night they raced in Sobo. I guess, was it a Cars Tour race that kind of ran so well?
Yep.
Okay. I went home and watched the Sobo race, but later that night I watched Sobo race, but then I watched Langley too, and I'm like, man, our production here is fantastic. And I think that's got some, Vaughan's got some inroads there, been doing a lot of work where, our television stuff is moving. And I think that's exciting. And it's where we've been heading for years. But you can't get to where we're moving to until you get your production level up. And that's what Vaughan accomplished, big things. And I tell you, I was so proud of watching the Hampton Heat. To me, you would have thought NBC was here themselves
it definitely
producing that. And
has
I'm not
been.
the only person that said it. So that's really important here. It's like, what do we look like to other people? Because if we're going to use this as an outreach for Langley to have imprint all over the country, and drivers, get smart. We're going to have a seminar on how to sell sponsorship because this stuff goes all over.
Yep.
It's big. And you can sell sponsorships that aren't so localized now and do some TV stuff. But
I think the seminars
think
are a
it's gonna
serious
be big.
thing
And-
that would be a positive thing for everybody involved.
But when people watch Langley and the production is as good as it is, we set a pretty good high bar.
Yeah, because I was in Missouri and I put it on my brother-in-law's TV, watched the race from here because I had to be in Missouri that weekend. And I tell you, it's unbelievable. I mean, and you go to another, watch another track. Langley is way ahead of these other tracks and some of the stuff they do, as far as the TV stuff.
Well,
and that's all Vaughan.
Well, it started with me, but Vaughan helped me from the beginning. It actually started with George Silverman, vice president of NASCAR years ago, probably around 2010. I was with him in Daytona at a cocktail party on the beach somewhere. And he said, I've got this concept of getting this video production out and try to get short tracks eventually to where we're getting ready to go now. That was his concept years ago. And then I guess we started with, what was that, Vaughan? Fans Choice?
Yep, Fans Choice.
Fans Choice with NASCAR. And I was really proud because, I told everyone that night, I said, who do I write the check to? And I asked him, I said, what do you think it would cost a tractor to bring everything up? He said, I don't know, probably $10,000. I said, well, I'm ready. But so when I showed the show of support for the concept, that got closer. And I was doing some other stuff. I knew about it. I knew it was getting closer. George told me now and then. But when it happened, I didn't even know Langley was announced. There was 3 tracks in the United States that kicked it off. And I think Becky Waltz or somebody posted it first and I saw it. And they're like, Langley Speedway, was it Evergreen?
It was us, Evergreen,
And another one. But
Tucson.
I was pretty proud of that, to be on the forefront of the tracks that went video first. And then we've grown since then. We went into the NBC program, and Vaughan's been helping me with that. And I went down there and met with Dan Barker, and we got that done, and that was really cool. But it took me, all I did was talk to the guy and shake his hand and plug him into Vaughan and walk away. That's all I've done. And, just be a contact face for business here and say, this is what we're going to do. But I'm really proud of that. And then another thing I was proud of is the production of Hampton Heat, the trophy, the stage, the presentation.
Yes.
It really
Up
was
the game.
elevated to like another whole level. And that elevation really paid off in the video. That's where it was so important. So, I just, I'm not blowing Vaughan up either, but it's what he does. It's what he knows how to do. And he's good at it. It's what he knows how to do. It's one of the talents that he's good at. So that is a big thing for this Speedway. And a lot of people don't understand where it's all going in the future, but it's big.
I said, that was I was leading into the next thing here when you started talking about that, but let's look at 2022. What kind of different, I know we got the mods coming back, but the big question I keep getting hit with,
Okay.
people walk around that I know from the racetrack or whatever, when I see them out and about, what's going to happen with the TV for next year? Now, I know it's already come out that what changes it's going to be, but what kind of effect is it going to have here?
So, we're lucky with this deal. We kind of already have a lot of things in place. So when it comes to the actual broadcast, a lot of it's going to be the same. I know one of our main goals in this coming year is to have scoring and a ticker on the screen.
Right.
Running order. That's been the biggest thing I've wanted to add. And it's looking like we're going to hopefully be able to finally add that to our production for next year. But the biggest thing is, the new flow deal, that's where we're moving to. That was something NASCAR works out. So NASCAR, sells the rights to NASCAR sanctioned races. And that includes the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts weekly series. So technically we don't have a say in this. We're along for the ride. But really, we're depending on NASCAR to think of what's best for the short tracks. And this deal is it. For so long, not so much now, we're finally getting away from it. For so long, 5+ years ago, streaming short track racing was very taboo. Promoters, owners had that whole mentality of, if I stream it online, nobody's going to come to the track. I'm going to tank. And then that's that. Streaming's going to kill. Do you guys remember when promoters were banning Facebook Live in the grandstands?
Yes.
They would go find fans and kick them out?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Luckily, Bill was not one of those people. And I really believed from the beginning what this could be. Heck, when I was a sophomore in high school, so that would have been in 2007, I ran for secretary of my class, and I was trying to think of the idea, hey, would it be cool if we broadcast our athletic events online? Like, that's how far ahead I was thinking about streaming. But the biggest thing was, all right, you can put all this into it, but how does it come back to help the track? I'm a videographer, and so much what I always get asked all the time is, hey, can you do something for me? I don't have money for you, but I will tell all my friends about what you did. Exposure
Right.
is good, but it doesn't give you everything. At some point, you don't get anything more from exposure. And it's the same thing with the streaming. When we were doing it before on Fans Choice, it was one guy at the top, and that feed went right into a laptop that went to NASCAR, it went online. Because at the time, we weren't getting anything back from it. We were investing in it, making it available to people, but you didn't want to put too much into it and start losing money out of it.
Gotcha.
With Flow, we'll start out with Track Pass. Track Pass elevated us to a different point where we're being pushed into millions of homes across the country. If you've got a phone, a tablet, a smart TV, anything that can have internet or Wi-Fi access, you can watch Langley on it, no matter where you are in the whole globe. With Flow now, you have this whole built-in platform that not only supports racing, it supports just about any sport you can think of. And with the subscription fees and what you pay into it, for the first time ever, tracks are now able to get a small piece of the pie. And that goes a long ways, because what that can do is help us make Langley a better place. It can, helps us with our bottom line. It helps us be able to invest into Track Pass. We have a great staff that run it. It takes a whole team to do it. I don't think people realize it.
Well, you got 5 guys?
Technically, yeah. If you think of the whole crew that runs the show, you've got, our 2 camera guys, Nelson Moody, Justin Kern. Nelson is actually somebody who came through the car club, raced with me for years. I know he raced with you, Scott. He's raced a lot of things out here. Justin Kern, who used to do Weekly Racer. He's doing a lot of stuff for me now here at the track. Everyone knows who Justin is as well. And then Dan Parisi, who was our producer. And then you've got Brian White, the announcer. You've got whoever our trackside person that day, whether it was Buck Roos, Brandon Brown, or Adam Welbrock. It takes that whole team to make that show work. So it takes a lot to staff all that and to make sure that it's, it's viable for the track. And Flow Racing is a massive platform. You think of all the dirt on it, Eldora, the Chili Bowls on it. And I know it's more per month than what we were before, but really what you get now is so much more.
Better.
I mean, for instance, if you're a huge, college fan, there's a lot of athletics on there.
What's the cost? I don't even know yet.
So it's $150 a year.
Okay.
You do have to pay it up front. It comes out to $12.50 a month.
Okay.
But the biggest thing I will say is if you're a little hesitant with that pay, just know that for the first time ever, part of that money comes back to us. It's not just going to some big corporation. You're helping the tracks, not just us, but all the tracks on that platform be able to do this and bring it to you. So I know that a few people online I've seen, when I've told them that, they felt differently about that bigger price tag, because now they realize it's just like buying a ticket where you're helping Langley and you're helping us out. So I'm really excited for it. It's going to bring us to new heights. We're going to get added support for bigger events, which is really nice, where they actually, let's just say for a Hampton Heat, they might actually bring people here to help us make the show even bigger, which really makes my job easier.
Yeah.
So they're invested in it, and I'm really excited to see what they'll do.
Does that help sell revenue when you say that we have so many viewership and then they're across whatever platforms?
It does, because we have our weekly events, but then we have what they call tentpole events. So think opening night. A lot more people come to opening night. Hampton Heat. I'm not sure what we'll be doing yet with Day of Destruction, but that could be another example of a very large event that will bring a very large viewing audience. So, we really fall into multiple categories, and, that's what makes us very attractive to them.
Okay. We got a couple of questions, or quite a few questions, honestly.
And what's important is we have content. So had we not been in the production business already, we would have nothing to show to get in with.
Yeah, we've got that proven
you
track
have a calling card. They'd say, well, film yourself for a year and send it to us and give me a call next year.
Well,
we don't have to do that. Flo's already watched
I'll
us.
add something to this. It's not easy to do this.
Thank you.
To put that team together. That was the evolution of a lot of years of work. I'll be honest, the best thing that happened for us with Track Pass was the pandemic, because when we got the go-ahead for Track Pass, which was going to be this massive investment going from the 1 camera to about 4 cameras, it took me a long time to put that together. And having those extra months there where we were shut down, the biggest thing I was able to do was fine-tune that system. So when we went going in July.
You were up here many times when I came up here working.
Yeah, exactly. You saw it. We were up here trying to put everything together. And in the original window of time, I would have had 2 weeks. And there was a lot of times where I was up here working and I realized I didn't order something. So then I had to wait another 3 to 4 days for it to come in. Or even at that point, I was taking about a week because just the whole system was shut down. But it takes a lot to boost this. And I saw a comment talking about South Boston's video stream. And, they've been doing this for 1 year. You can't expect them to just immediately just boost up to a
Right,
level.
right.
And I've talked with Chase at
It takes a
Sobo.
while to build it.
It takes a while to build it, and the biggest thing is it takes a lot of people to run this, and that's hard to find people to operate camera. And the other thing is, it's not just operating the camera; it's knowing what to point the camera at.
Right.
And the fact that I've got Justin and Nelson up there that know every single driver and every single car up
Yeah.
there, that when Brian calls out a driver's name, they know exactly what to find.
Mhm.
And that can be very hard to do if you've never been here before.
Right.
And for, Sobo, they're just getting into it. I'm lucky. I went to school for video production. I know how this thing was worked as well as taught in school. Chase is having to work through something he's never done before.
Mm.
And, they're doing better at it. We talk on the phone a lot. We worked with each other. I was actually there opening day for them last year, kind of just making sure the system they were using to start up was working. So, they're going to be making improvements year to year. I know Chase is working on it this winter, and I know they'll have a better product come there in the beginning.
One of the things, I've listened to different tracks, and there's different levels by how they do things. But you got one thing going for you. Brian White is probably one of the best announcers that
I really like Brian.
I've heard, and I've listened to a lot of them from these local tracks. He is on top of it. I mean,
I don't know how he does, to be honest with you.
He's absolutely incredible. I will credit Curtis Hughes for that one.
Oh, really?
He was racing at Dixieland, and
Mm-hmm.
when Mike Allen left and moved to Florida, that was a big hole to fill.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And for a while there in the beginning, I was freaking out because it was really just it was me and Buck, and we were kind of in this crazy carousel of trying to just fill that void. And I remember that the year after he left, I was in there a lot. I know Buck came in, Chuck, and we had a few other people, kind of rolling through there. And then finally, Curtis brought us Brian White, and it changed the whole thing. And it was fantastic. And
he is a way above and beyond.
The time I was up there,
place.
it's like, he's got his book. He's doing 10 damn things at once. I don't know how the hell he does it.
He'd been here 5 years. The first night he announced here.
Yeah.
He was spitting out driver names for cars. I'm like, how do you do it? He studied it before he got here, and he was great. Like Vaughan says, we were racing at Dixieland. It wasn't unusual for me to be down there on Friday night and hear him, but I didn't know we could bring him to Langley. And I really, down there, a lot of times we're on the inside pits. So much noise and what's going on. We're always talking street racing, bench racing, talking to each other. I didn't have him identified as well as Curtis, and I had sat in the stands, but it was phenomenal when he came here, and I thought, wow, look what we drug up here from down there at the dirt track on Friday night, didn't it? But I think Brian really likes working here too. He likes Langley, and that's important.
Yeah, I think everybody else likes Brian. And
Absolutely.
I was going to mention the same thing before you said it. Brian has been a great asset for the team.
And
he's kind of like the quarterback.
He's invited me in there a couple of nights with him and talked with him. I can't keep up with him.
against my orders, by the way. No.
I was getting ready to say, oh man, yeah, I didn't even know that. But no, I can't keep up with him. He's
got two books. He's got
He's way
So-
ahead of me.
One project I'm going to try and get done here is we had an event, I think it was around September. I put a GoPro on everybody on the Track Pass crew, including Brian, to make it behind the scenes to show you just in one feature race what's going on and what it takes to put on that show. And it's insane. You're seeing Dan, cutting camera views. He's telling the camera guys what to work on. Then you've got Brian. He's calling the race. But what you don't see when you're just listening is he's got books, and we're flipping. We're going through the scoring monitor.
It's crazy.
And it's insane. It's a side of it that you never get to see.
I enjoyed sitting in there with him that night, watching him do what he did.
It is. It's really cool. And believe me, when I got to go in there the nights he can't make it, I have nothing prepared like that.
No, he's in his own league.
Yeah, it's incredible.
All right, let's talk more 2022. What's some of the new things that you got going on for this coming year that you would like to talk about?
Well, I want to start with the modifieds. They hadn't been here since 2018, and Bill can tell you it's something I've been wanting to do since I started here. Even back in 2020 during the pandemic, when all the northern states were shut down, I reached out to the tour to see if there was a way we could make something happen and get them down here. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, but it gave me the chance to start getting to know Jimmy Wilson and all the folks at the tour and talking with them. And then this past year, I went to the modified race at Richmond and just kind of watched it all, talked with a few different people while I was there, and decided I really wanted to try and go after this and see what we could do with it and make it something that comes back to Langley year after year. So we got down, we were able to make a deal and get those guys there, and we're working on a lot of cool things with that event. There's going to be 3 modified tour races here in the state of Virginia this year. It's going to be us, Richmond, and Martinsville. And that's some pretty big company to keep
Right.
when you can put yourself in that league and not just be the local short track, but also hosting, big tours like the
I thought that was
modifieds.
huge. I thought that was huge to be able to put those 3 together.
And there's something big in the works with the 3 of us. That hopefully we can get the word out on soon. That will really, I think, shake the modified world, and it'll be really cool once we get that done. Think something, not necessarily the Virginia Triple Crown, but here's 3 tracks working together for kind of some extra stuff going on with all 3 events. The other thing is, we got Cars Tour back June 4th. We've got the Sprint Cars here for 2 dates this year, July 2nd and October 8th. Sean Blues Memorial will be on October 1st. And, after we've seen the last 2 years of response to that event and how big it's become, it's going to be a big show this year.
That's what I was another thing I was going to ask too, was this past year with the Sean Beluso race this past year. I know you guys had to be excited to see 30 of those modifieds show up out here to race that race. I mean, and it's probably not something you're going to see at a local racetrack around here to see something how many people showed up. And we know it's because of Sean and his pull. We know that. But to come here to Langley to be here to be a part of that is unbelievable.
And that they were I want to say the tone of the people was different that day than I've ever seen. Everybody was so happy to be here and supportive of what it was all about. I mean, I was here with modified. Tommy Spencer brought his car and was going to let me ride in it, and the fan broke and the water pump broke that afternoon. We couldn't get one, but it was phenomenal to see the car count. Just what a great event. So that's going to turn out to be a huge annual race. I can see it building. Now it's got that momentum. You won't take it back. It's got that momentum, and it's going to do nothing but get better.
No,
and everybody I talked to has said they can't wait for next year to be here, be a part of the Beluso race.
Yeah.
And we made it on the schedule this year that it's going to be structured very similar to a Hampton Heat.
Okay.
In the sense that we're going to blow it up. You're going to have the Friday practice day. You're going to have the race day Saturday. A similar schedule and structure to that. I've only got 5 races that night now, so you can really elevate it and not have it crunched in with all the championship stuff. So the idea is next year is to treat it just like a Hampton Heat.
Is that the last race of the season, or is it
the second to last?
Okay.
So we'll still have 1 week after, but this will be the weekend after the supposed date for the Martinsville race, which will be September 24th. So, it'll be a big weekend for us. I'm excited to take it to the next level again.
And
Not that it's already there, because it's crazy. I mean, there was 30 there, but I didn't know of a realistic 35 that almost made that show.
Yeah.
There were some big names that just last minute just couldn't make it, that otherwise you knew were going to be there, and ones that would have competed for the win. So hopefully we can make that happen, and that'll be a big event. And then you look throughout the rest of the calendar. We got the Southern Ground Pounders will be there July 16th. Again, we've already talked about championships, but championships October 1st, 8th. You've got big drifting events on the schedule, both Day of Destructions. There's a few off weekends in the season, which is a little different from what we've normally done, but those are not off weekends. They will be filled with something at some point.
Yeah.
Some already are tentative behind the scenes worked out. Others we're still trying to do stuff with.
The monster trucks coming back again.
Monster trucks are back. They will be here April 2nd and October 29th. So that'll be their 2 dates this year. They moved their dates a little bit. I think that'll be really good. And go ahead.
Robbie Parker had a good question. Is there any looking at maybe doing a 3-day event, kind of like I guess like the Kenley does at some point? Is there?
So believe it or not, in my early drafts of the schedule, we did have Hampton Heat as a 2-day event.
That was the first thing to come to mind. Something like that would be a good.
We did have that idea. Right now, we backed off that. Just kind of thought a little more and realized that, maybe, on our progression of Hampton Heat right now, we're on steps, let's just say 2 and 3, and maybe that's like step 5. So right now, not doing any multi-day shows, but, the ideas have been thrown out, tossed around, and talked about, so it'll be some possibly down the road, but just not there yet. But it works for places like Kenley because they do it on a holiday weekend where you've got people that are already off that Friday and Saturday, and they can make it a bigger thing.
Everybody's racing is over.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Right.
And Mike's got that weekend. So
Yeah, you can't.
I don't think not everything works everywhere. You know what I mean? Mike only ran 2 races last year. He ran a Can-Am race in the spring and that Thanksgiving Classic, I guess. That was it. So
Yeah.
Maybe that's different.
Maybe Hampton Heat gets so big one day that you put something on the Friday, everyone's already going to take off, but we're not there yet.
Get so big, we'll have to move it to Richmond.
No. It defeats the purpose, right? Maybe move it to Sunday race, but then I guess you got to worry about people getting home too.
That's right. But no, there's a lot of big things, and something else we're working on is we're really going big in on promotions for each night next year. So we've got our main schedule that's already out, but we're actually going to have a promotional schedule that'll come out probably sometime in January.
So what do you mean?
So each night basically is going to have a theme. I think minor league baseball in that sense, where I'm not doing a Star Wars night, but Star Wars night is an example of something. Some ballparks have gotten some.
Can I ask one thing?
Sure.
We're not going to do a bark in the park thing, are we?
No. No, I don't want a dog to get loose and get.
Okay, that's what I want to make sure of. That's what I want to make sure of.
I got enough dogs out here as it is. But you're on the right idea though. That's kind of what we're going to try and do next year. Some nights are pretty simple. An Armed Forces night. There's Father's Day. There's Mother's Day. There's a teacher appreciation. But then there's the ones we're going to get creative with. And I'm not going to say them right now, but there's some funny ones in there, some goofy ones. I'm sure there'll be one in there that I'll put it out and go, I hope that was a good idea. But
at least one like that, right?
There's one in there that I'm a little.
Make yourself worry about.
There's one in there I'm kind of like, I'm putting it out there. But
hey man, I think anytime there's a good laugh in it, I think
it'll be entertaining. It'll be a very entertaining night. I'm sure when I put it out and someone thinks back to this, they'll know exactly what I'm referring to. But it'll be a good idea, and it'll work out well.
Eddie Clark wants a barbecue cook
at his house. Give us a date, Clark. We'll post your address and the time and what your posted prizes are, and we'll all be over.
Now, what about the heat like you did this summer? Is that coming back, or is there another?
Yeah, our plan's to come back with that. Just got to work out the sponsorship side of it again, and get that stuff.
I think that was a very positive thing. I think the guys on the other side of besides the fans, the driver side of it, I think because we run into it sometimes when an enduro driver will come to us and like, hey, can we come on a show? We know we're just an enduro driver, but that enduro driver is just as important as Greg and Edwards.
They are.
So I think that spotlight on all the divisions was a very positive thing, and I think everybody, so far as the crews and stuff, felt like they were shined on and gave them some good response.
We'll definitely do something. That'll just be one of those things. We just announce the details and make the formal push for it and everything a little bit later, but. We will have that out before the start of the season.
And there's a couple good things going on here. It said put Vaughan in a dunk tank and see how much money you can raise.
Hey, there's been some nights out here we could have made a lot of money.
Whose idea was that?
We could have made a lot of money.
Whose idea was that?
Rodney Davis.
Put Vaughan in a dunk tank.
I'm good with that.
And we probably,
Do it 4
Robbie.
o'clock in the summer day.
I bet that
okay, I
would be
don't care
worth a
one
couple
bit.
of grand, wouldn't it?
I'll even
Can you
heckle.
see me and Robbie Davis rotating through lines
See,
and
here's-
laughing and Vaughan
Well,
like
see, here's the
throwing
thing.
stuff back or something?
I'll heckle you until you get me in that tank.
But now, Amy Music has got one too. I think might be something. I'm not trying to, tell you what to do, but about bringing some of the old race car drivers from Langley back here for a night, have everybody come in for a night.
Again, working on stuff.
Okay, I'm just
Working
saying.
on
That was a good idea. I'm just
Working on stuff. That there's definitely something like that already planned out.
That's.
I can even give you the date. It'll be July 16th. But
All right, we'll let it go down.
I'll throw that part out because that's one set in stone.
So that is a cool thing. Go back to the cars tour real quick. We had Jack McNally on here last week, and he was talking about his new way he's going to be doing the cars tour with the pro late models and the regular
Right.
late models. Are we going to have both of them here for that race, or
Just doing the late model.
just doing late?
Just doing the late model. What we've been doing with them the last 3 years has been, I love having the cars tour here. They've been great to work with. It's been fantastic racing every time they've been out here. Healthy car count's been great. I did see the day they changed the logo, so I got a little bit of work to do to flip all that on the
Yeah,
website. I had everything set to orange and red, and then they went to blue. So, but beside the point, no, Cars Tour is one of my favorite days here. Tony Stephen comes out with his Pit Road TV crew. I get to, help them out, and Jack Nelly and everything they do with his crew, is top of the line. So
They
I'm
have a
excited
nice
to have them.
product.
They do. They
Yeah.
do. And, what they've been able to pull off with making a late model tour work, it's nothing short of a miracle when you really think about everything they got to
No,
compete
for
with.
sure.
Because not only are you having to schedule around each track's big races, you've got to get everybody together and go take the tour on the road all the time.
Mhm.
So it's a lot to put that together, and kudos to him for being able to do it.
I know he
And
mentioned.
he knows how. I mean, when we go, but we talk about bringing the Southern Modified Tour back here. Jimmy Wilson and I are really good friends, and it goes back to Jack McNally. It all goes back to Hooters Pro Cup. Jimmy
Right.
Wilson was
Right.
with Hooters Pro Cup, and then when that kind of failed, McNally was what I consider really the backbone of the group. There is, I think, four in that group, USAR, and they came here, and they had hired Jimmy Wilson, to be like the tour director, and I had just got the track, and Jimmy grew up down there really at New Smyrna Speedway,
Right.
and so I've been involved in racing, and then he was on that tour, and I got to know Jack and those guys, and really learned a lot through them at that time, and it was really crazy. That kind of broke up. Jimmy ends up back over at NASCAR in the tour and back here. And then Jack emerges, shows up with this Cars tour. And I'm thinking, if anybody's capable, he is. He's a very capable individual, and he knows how to run a tour. That wasn't just a guy that had an idea about it and I think I'm going to try this. He knew how to do this.
And he turned it around.
Yeah, he knew
turned
how
it
to.
around. Yeah.
He knew how to do this. And I think one of the things is Jack's very smart at what he's doing, and he loves racing. And it's so cool, though, to have a man that's as capable as him at late model level. That's what he
Yeah.
loves. He's supporting local short tracks. It's a tour at our level. And I think that's really cool.
And
You know,
boots on the
that
ground.
It's
And
accessible.
boots on the ground.
Yeah,
He's at
boots
the
on the
events,
ground.
headset
Well,
on,
that's what he wants to do.
getting dirty, getting his hands dirty,
He always
working on
has.
it.
He's been hands-on. It's really cool.
Well, I mean, that's the way he does things. But now we can't let you go without mentioning the Kart Club. I mean, that's a huge thing.
It's been 10 minutes already.
Huh?
I got to talk about him earlier, doesn't it, Bob?
No, but
Well, I mean, that's where it starts. I mean, ours starts on Sunday with the Carts Club.
I mean, it's where I started.
so. Have we got big plans for that this year as far as bringing everything back and running it like a.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a good year this past year. We've got more juniors in the kart club than we've had in years and years. So it's a huge future. I mean, it's just like I see in bandos. Like, wow, when you see a big bando class, there's some future in racing. And I love the diversity. I love a lot of the girls that are out racing now, and they're doing really well. And
We got
You know,
a lot of girls
these
coming
girls-
along now.
these girls
Yeah.
out here running super streets, they're all over the kart club,
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I just the kart club's alive and well, and that's just a good report. It's great. I've got great dedicated people over there. When I walked out of the office, Keith and Margaret Leach were there, Jody Weaver, Chris Bechtel, Sammy Valdez, Tony Specchio, and Judy Gerdes. So I've got a team, and they're getting ready for a banquet. We're going to have a banquet the weekend before Langley's
Okay.
in January. So we're getting ready for the kart club banquet, and just had a rule book meeting last week, and have got all our rules. We've gone through every rule one page at a time, and got a really good rule book for next year for the kart club. So the big thing about the kart club is the kart club's running very smooth. It's alive and well. Y'all know we've been doing track improvements,
Yes.
Mhm.
and it's just this year, kart club seemed to struggle. Like the year we were shut down when we opened back up, Langley opened back up Saturday night racing and hit the ground running. Had a couple of rough years with the kart club, just getting continuity in my group again, behind the scenes. And it changed last year. And y'all know Jody Weaver, and he's been involved in a lot of racing, and Autumn's running out here, but he's done a really good job coming on as vice president. Chris Bechtel is like such a key player. I mean, he's a good race director, great flag man.
Yeah.
So we got a hell of a good group there.
And the Friday nights, I came on a couple Friday nights. Those Friday nights were pretty big in the kart club.
They are, and it's really cool. That was never an opportunity I got when I was in it.
Hmm.
And drifting in 2022, we're going to have to get.
No, he said 2092.
Yeah.
Oh, 29, 22.
Yeah, he typed it wrong.
He don't know.
See,
Hey,
I
you're
thought-
supposed to be on this show, not home bumbling
Sorry.
around on a typewriter somewhere.
So yeah, Chuck Hall, you're gonna be getting a personal phone call from me this week. I had something in the lined up, but we didn't get it done.
So I do see one question that came through here talking about the Hall of Fame.
Mhm.
So, that was an idea. I know it was popped around a couple years ago, and obviously COVID kind of messed that up. And we've had different plans for it, but I do have an idea for how to do the Hall of Fame, and it'll coincide with a different improvement project. So once we get working on that project, when that happens is when we'll have the Hall of Fame and work to build that and grow it from there.
that'll be big.
But we want to make sure it has a nice place on the property
Right. Yeah.
to host the Hall of Fame. So once we get that put together, we can make it work. Looking to see if there was anything else that came through.
You got anything over there, Scott, on yours?
I know one person that said something about classes. Did they think we have too many classes? I'm just curious. I know it's kind of probably a sore subject.
No, it's not a sore subject.
No.
How can you possibly have too many classes? If people want to race, we're blessed to have all these classes.
And they had mentioned car count, but I think all in all, for the most part, I think we've had decent car count this past
Well, they
year.
all change, okay?
I mean, they go through ebb and flows with each class.
We didn't stop racing Pro 6s when we had 5 cars. We didn't stop racing trucks when they got down low.
You cars.
And
Yeah.
new cars, okay? All this stuff changes and it migrates around, and then people come back in it, and we now and then inventory the vehicles that we know are in the area. We know they're here, they're parked and they're somewhere.
Mhm.
We'll kind of do a head count like, there's 15 trucks around here, they're just not all running. And the biggest thing that happens when people aren't racing and they're sitting on equipment, I want to start a piece of our website that these guys can offer this stuff up for sale. Because a guy that's not racing, it's in the garage, I don't know what's going to get him to go racing, but he's already got the equipment, he's not racing. But if a guy buys something to go racing, they're going to ride in it. Like Chris Bechtel, he's got a new ride to go racing this year and something new. He's going to ride in it. He's not going to buy that and not race it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I think we're going to have a
So
few
he'll
new
go racing.
people in our class.
So
It's gonna
we
be good.
need some exchange of some older equipment But car counts are a blessing because I look at numbers a lot, statistics, and it's not unusual for me to have 85 plus cars at Langley Speedway or vehicles on a Saturday night, race vehicles. 85, 95, sometimes it's 100. You got champ carts and enduros, you'll have 100 cars here. Well, if I had 4 divisions, guarantee I'd be lucky to have 15, 18 in each one. So do the math. And then if you got 4 divisions, you're going to race every Saturday night, really? And you're going to wear those people out pretty darn quick.
Right.
So tell me how
That's
cars
true.
you're going to have in 4 divisions at the end of the year if you race every weekend. So to me, car count, I mean, there's a lot of divisions. Apparently there's people interested in running in each one because they exist. Okay, so by default they exist. And I don't want to take anybody's equipment and tell them it's no good anymore. Okay, super streets. I was out here, me and Nick Kincaid were talking the other day. When we first come out here messing with super street cars, there was literally 40 plus, and they would do a constellation race and send 15 home.
Yeah.
Remember? We bought that great big old car from Kincaid. I call it like a boat. It was like a barge. And but back then, man, 40 cars were out here. You had all the Woods racing and all those guys. I mean, Daryl that's up there at Dominion and Tech. And I mean, everybody was racing super street cars. So I don't know. I mean, I don't see where it's a problem for anybody but me and Vaughan having all these cars and all these car counts. It's a good blessing to me. I mean, who wants less divisions? Why is it bothering anybody? I don't care for
I mean, every
500
night,
different styles of racing.
what's unlike anything we've done before is when we added limiteds, basically it forced us to have 2 top divisions now running every night. There's some nights they'll be a combination. Sometimes it'll be late models and modifieds, late models and limiteds, modifieds and limiteds, and so it's going to switch around. But you're going to have some large shows, all throughout the year this year.
I mean, I think the limited is a great idea. I mean, I
do too.
I love the idea, and it
What's
sounds
that?
like there's going to be quite a few. I mean, it's got a lot of traction. It feels like.
It does. I mean, it's worked at a lot of other tracks.
That's what I'm getting
It's
at.
given a lot of options to other late model people that maybe are kind of worn out by racing late models. They can come back and do the limited thing, a more affordable option. And we got a rules out last week to no complaints, which is rare.
What?
At least mostly.
When you look at the limiteds, you got a set of limiteds at Dominion.
Yep.
And you got a set of limiteds here. How much? And I know this is probably a sore subject somewhere down the line somewhere, but how much do y'all work together on trying to piece a rule that where those guys can come run here, or your guys can go run there?
Well, I think it's that way now. And I mean, Vaughan and I were working with Steve and Chris Steffi up there. Steve and I are good buddies too. And, we were working with him when we were going to do a Virginia racer.
Right.
And then COVID got us all messed up and sideways.
Right.
We were even going to run the Virginia racer tire on them here. So they were on the same tire, same rim, everything. But now, Vaughan, we're reapproaching it. And I think we need to just take off with this set of rules. It's kind of a standard set of rules,
Right.
And
And it allows cars from not just Dominion, but from a lot of the places to come make the most small amount of changes they can make and race with us.
Right. I agree.
So, I think, Justin and his crew did a fantastic job putting those rules together, making it simple for the cars to come from all over to join us. And, I'm excited to see how many cars we start off with, but I can promise you the last race this season will be much greater than the one at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it certainly seems like there's going to be enough cars for the class for sure.
Well,
I
I
mean, it
think
certainly seems like to me anyway.
the biggest thing I think that, hurt us when we tried this in 2020 versus now is there was not a real commitment on our part. Why would someone go out and buy a car and invest their hard-earned money into something they don't even know we're going to run the year after? So, now what we've done is we've said, this is a division at Langley. Here's the rules. We're going to promise you they're here at the track.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yep.
I have a suggestion that I think it would be good for everybody if we had like a a person or a representative from each class at Langley Speedway and have sort of a group with you and Bill, and maybe once a month meet and say, hey, these are the things we're trying to work on in the back. And because sometimes I think there feels like there's a little bit of a disconnect.
No, I completely agree with you on that. And that is actually been an idea that's been talked about in the last week. You know, having the normals rules meetings can, for those who've been in it, and no one can argue against this, they can get pretty crazy quick.
Oh yeah.
You just have, if you have a lot of different opinions in one room, it takes a lot to actually have some dialogue where it just becomes, you know, a lot of people just saying things back and forth, where if you have 2 or 3 people,
completely agree,
you can really rely on and have real conversation. And it just makes that process easier.
Yeah.
And I know in every division out here, you know, being from the support divisions, you know, I know exactly 2 or 3 people I could say right away. I trust them to talk to the track officials with what's best for our division.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I definitely think that's probably the path we're going to go down here in the future.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, to me, I think that's would be a great idea, because then it feel, you know, would trickle information back and forth.
Exactly.
But I completely agree with you about taking everybody. You can't do that. I mean, like I've seen Phil post on there and said you can't let can't leave the.
We had rule meetings. I like inclusion. I think if you have a rule meeting, every car owner ought to be there. Say his piece. I mean, a lot of time we had rule meetings. Shane and I did it over and over with all the divisions. Y'all know that.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times he'd come out here and be mad at us that summer. Why are you taking that? And I said, because y'all told us to in that meeting. Remember,
Right, yeah.
It was the third thing on the list that came from you guys. I mean, so it's interesting. But
Yeah, you
I don't
can't let
think
the
there's
prisoners run the prison.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any big change. You know what I'm saying for anything. I don't think we need to try to spend anybody's money. We just need to keep on racing.
I agree.
You know,
Totally agree with you.
You know, I mean, it's like one example is a sprint car. You can get a sprint car, and you get 2-3 sets of suspension for it, and a little basic group of parts. You're done. That's it. You know, the guy came out here, Gerald Harris.
Mm-hmm.
He blew the engine up in October when the sprints came here in October. Do you know he had the engine in a car since 2003, the exact same engine, and he'd run it many, many races and won 2 or 3 World Outlaw races with that same engine in that same car. That's how long that engine lasted in a sprint car.
That's
so
crazy.
There's some of this stuff that you can get X amount of parts. That's all. That's it. That's all you need. You can ride forever and don't think they ain't fast.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, the money that I see being spent, you know, it's a constant migration of coming up with some trick and selling it to a customer and convincing him that he's better. And the key people to sell it to are the customers that are already winning. Because then everybody thinks, oh, you got to have that or you can't win. And then there's always this migration. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But
Yeah, we could just
And
stop
I've
the
always-
technology somehow. But
Yeah.
I like the concept of legends and bandos. You know what I'm saying? And things like that are like that's it.
Mhm.
It is what it is.
Dwight, right now there is no plans for another Denny Hamlin race, but we're always here if he wants to do it.
Call Denny and tell him.
Yeah, I think he's busy right now with his new Cup team, and he's got a lot going on. So
Got that right.
I think it's something that may happen in the future sometime, but that's all I'm going to say about it. You know, it's a possibility. Like
always a
anything.
possibility.
And I think
the
Richmond
door's
race-
always open, right?
But I
think-
will say, right now, just with the way Richmond's dates have changed, it does make it a little bit more difficult to do it with a Richmond weekend.
And Chuck's home. Chuck, you're not going to sit home and message us what to say when you're supposed to have been here. But Chuck wants to warn everybody, might be a big concert here, or might be a concert here, Richmond race weekend in the fall. And y'all remember last one, we didn't have anybody, just a small guy, Kane Brown.
Yeah.
So we're working on maybe.
Okay.
There's a possibility of another concert coming.
There's a maybe. You know what I mean? So
And then I see someone asking if we were going to live stream the banquet. Right now, there aren't any plans to live stream the banquet. But I guess never say never. I just haven't quite gotten to that point yet. The biggest thing is going to be is if I can find a good enough connection, internet wise, to try and pull that off. But for right now, no plans to live stream the banquet.
Well, guys, we appreciate you spending. I know you spent a lot of time with us tonight, probably more than what you thought you were going to. Somebody's got to ride back to Richmond tonight, I think.
Yep.
That's why he's young.
That's right.
So,
You can still do it.
But we appreciate you coming and answering the questions and giving us an update and tell us a little bit about the past. And it means a lot to us that you would come and be here with us and do that. And
Well, I want to thank you and Scott for all y'all are doing more for the racing community than you think. And y'all know I comment now and then. A lot of people tune in. I'm really proud to have you guys here, and like Langley, just to be at least a base for your show. And you're getting a lot of great people on the interviews. There's a lot of cool information. You know, it's a really good thing for racing. And I just want to thank you guys for being part of the big family and being at Langley Speedway. It's a really cool thing that we got
appreciate
you guys.
it way more than
We get great things by default sometimes.
Yeah.
We don't have to write
Well,
checks for it.
we
You guys are
appreciate
two of those great things.
Well, we appreciate you letting us be a part of it because
Yeah, we
it's
love
really it's really big for us. I mean,
It's
We-
been great for both of us, to be honest.
we
Yeah.
hear about, hey, they let you go then up to Langley and do your show there. I said, let's go to Langley. I
Yeah,
said,
sure, you have anything you want. You stay here, you move in if you
Because
want.
even then, it's been easier to get the guys that race here to
That's
come
right.
to the show. Where
Yeah.
before they were like, "Where are you at? Oh, you're in Virginia Beach, or you're here."
Uh-huh.
It's at the track. They
It's
know where
home-
the
it's
track
home
is.
base.
Yeah.
Right. That's
Yep.
exactly right. And it's been great for that. I mean, it really has. I think. I mean, our viewership. We had some viewership, but I think since we've been here, and streaming has gotten a lot better. Obviously it counts, but I mean, we have a pretty good. I mean, we'll have 3,000 to 6,000
And when you talk to
views.
somebody like Jeff Hammond or somebody like that we've had on the show, and you mention, hey, we do our show from Langley, we'd like to have you come on the show. You get a little bit more,
Yeah.
more, okay, I'll do that because,
Uh-huh.
you get a little more
Credibility.
clout with it. You
It's
get
that
a
whole
little,
thing. Langley's bigger outside of Hampton than
right.
it is in it.
So
This
it means
is
a lot
very
to us.
true.
It means
Yeah.
a lot to us.
All of them have a story to tell about this place.
I'm
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, Richard Childress and guys like that, man. Some of the stories are just so unbelievable. And the coolest one was Daryl Waltrip, and they were here racing. And you know this one, Vaughan. And I've got a video of him telling this story, being interviewed on a stage somewhere, NASCAR event, and he's telling this story like, what is some of the coolest stories, and with some of the promoters. So I guess it was Joe Carver, maybe.
It was Joe Carver.
Okay.
I know the
And
story.
the guy say, well, we're up at Langley Speedway, and it's Langley. And he says, so next thing we know, this huge fight breaks out in the pits. And he says, it's huge. And we look at each other like, what are we going to do? And Carver's thinking on his feet, and he puts on the national anthem. Everybody quits throwing punches near him. They're all looking at the flag and the fight quit. But that was one of the coolest stories I ever heard about Langley.
So-
is this big fight breaks out and you play the national anthem. Brian White, keep this in your notepad. The national anthem has got to be one of our quick play buttons in there in case a big fight breaks out. We're going to try this sometime in the future.
So I want to say one
So
thing
cool.
about that story is I love Daryl Waltrip to death, but Daryl Waltrip stole that story from Joe Moore.
There you go.
I've seen Joe Moore
That's a good
one
story.
time was talking at a Q&A at Richmond, and someone brought that story up, and he's like, yeah, that was my story. I told the Daryl Waltrip.
That's not a shock.
Which
The
makes
guy-
sense because
the guy that's the most fun that I've ever been around to tell racing stuff is Kenny Wallace.
yes.
That guy is phenomenal. I
Mm.
love hearing him talk and
Yeah.
talking to people about racing. He is so much fun. It's insane.
He's
so good.
we
for
got
the
him
sport.
coming on. We've got him scheduled. He's going through. It's vacation time for him
Yep.
right now. A lot of things going on. And I talked to him. I guess it was yesterday or Friday, one or the other. He said, "Yeah, I'm not blowing you off. I'm going to come on your show." But I went to his shop in Missouri,
I saw that.
and
He just rode up in the man's yard.
I just pulled right up and
I'm not surprised.
I pulled up and I'm thinking,
Against the court order and everything.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
but I pulled up. I thought, I'm going to his shop. It's not, I'm not going to his house, even though I have to pass
Yeah.
his house to get to his shop.
Luckily, the gate wasn't closed in the front.
So I go up there and I'm
Oh,
getting
my
out and
God.
I'm looking through the doors and through the windows and there's nobody in there. And my wife and everybody in the car, they're going nuts because what are you doing? What are you doing? About that time I look up and there's a whole bunch of guys coming up through there. They got the truck and here they come. I'm thinking, I hope they're not coming up here to get, but it was Kenny. And he took us right on in and did a video while we were there.
What did he say when you first said something to you, though?
What do you mean?
Didn't he say, well, y'all just pull right up into
Oh,
my
yeah. Yeah, I just pulled up here. How did you find my address? Oh, that ain't hard to do.
That's fine.
But he went up there and he knew how to place us to take pictures. I want y'all to stand right here because all my trophies are behind you. I want you to stand right here. And he took pictures and he said, now when he did dinner, he said, now I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna tell him my story. And he turned the camera off. And Lord knows he told us his story.
I bet he did.
It was cool too, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yes, sir.
It was fun. And of course,
It's funny.
being probably the only one that was in that group that was with me that had a lot of knowledge about racing of any kind, they probably didn't see it as good as I saw it. I thought
Right.
this was really cool.
I love it when he says, Earnhardt called him to drive a car for Earnhardt. It was big.
Yeah.
Of course, Earnhardt wasn't anybody back then that much, but he said, Bill, he said, when Earnhardt, he said he sent a bus to pick me up. He said the bus was bigger than the mobile home I was living in. He said it was bigger than the trailer I was living in at the time. But he had some good stories.
He is funny.
And there's a lot of good stories from tracks all over the country just like that. Not just Langley, it's everywhere.
Mhm.
All these
Yep.
tracks have great stories.
Well, guys, thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
you
Thank
taking
you.
time out of your day to come and stay here at night to talk to us. Bill, I know you got a lot going on. I saw your video yesterday with all the stuff you got going on.
I got a few projects. I usually have some projects this time of year, but I just want to thank you guys, sponsors, racers. Y'all are number one. Without the racers, there's no show at any racetrack. So y'all are the top priority. And I just want to tell everybody thank you for supporting Langley and being a big part of the family and happy holidays.
I was gonna say, yeah. Merry
Happy
Christmas,
holidays
Happy
to
New Year.
everybody.
So next week will be our last show for this year, and then we'll do this start over again in the first of the year. But thank you for being here. It means a lot.
Thank you.
And we'll talk to you again hopefully real soon. And you have anything you want to come in? You keep telling us you got this whole thing working.
I'll get with you guys.
Okay.
I'll give you guys an exclusive.
All right. Next week we're going to have Jacqueline Drake is going to be with us next week, and we're also going to have Donnie Wilson from down at the Snowball. His car won the Snowball, so we're going to have him with us next week, and Jacqueline Drake. So that's
Good.
so.
It's a good lineup.
So we'll talk to you again next week. Thank you so much.